Hey there. So, before the narration starts, I wanted to give a huge welcome to all of the new people because, yeah, I was in a couple of the Dark Somnium's videos, and huge, thank you to him for, letting me do that. Um, but yeah, if you're new here, I hope you stick around because, hopefully I can make this a kind of full-time thing once I get this whole schedule thing down, and yeah, voice acting is definitely a passion of mine, so, yeah, enjoy the narration.
That's right, folks. Text choo-choo to 6692 now for your chance to win. There's still 5 minutes until the lucky winner is drawn. What's on the table for today, you might be asking? If you haven't already guessed it, it's one train ticket to that one.
It all started with a train ticket. I'd always wanted to ride a train. Ever since I was little, I had a strange infatuation with little toy trains. My brother and I would race them across the cold tile floor of the kitchen all afternoon until our mother would scoop them up. Come on, Winnie. You and your brother can play with these after you take a nap, she would say, her hands perched on her hips in that motherly stance that all moms seem to have. Trevor's bottom lip would stick out and tremble, and I would be quick to comfort him, our mother tugging the last toy train out of his grubby little hands. But, Mom, I would whine, we were just in the middle of. Now listen to me right now, young lady. Her voice would be stern, eyebrows knitted together, and lips pierced as she stared down at me. It's time to take a nap, and that's final. After a couple years, the toy trains moved to a bin, and that bin moved to the attic. I didn't move out until I was 21, but when I finally did, my next big bucket list item was to go on a trip by myself, preferably by train. Life is harsh though, and I was quick to learn that it didn't wait around for my dreams and goals. I was struggling to pay rent for an apartment the size of a coat closet. My meals consisted of almost exclusively peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, sometimes just the peanut butter if I couldn't afford the jelly. And my boss was working me to the bone. Twisting the keys into the lock of my apartment door, I pushed it open with my hip and dropped the bag of groceries onto the floor. A tube of toothpaste toppled out, along with a jar of peanut butter and a bottle of Tylenol. With a sigh, I collapsed onto the couch and stared up at the ceiling. If this was all that there was to life, I was tired of it. Lately, I felt like a hamster running on a wheel. All my days had almost seemed to blend together into a monstrous haze. I really needed a change. That night, I fell asleep on the couch in my work clothes and awoke in a pool of drool. Some of it crusted on the corner of my mouth. What woke me up, though, wasn't my alarm. It was the little radio sitting on my kitchen counter, its volume blaring so loud that it seemed to bounce off of every wall in my apartment.
Yes, you heard me right. There is still one ticket left. Text choo-choo to 6692 for your chance to win.
Shooting up from my spot on the couch, I scrambled to grab my phone. Still half asleep, I rubbed my sleep-crusted eyes and pounded the numbers into my phone as fast as I could, hoping and praying that I would be chosen. The harsh light of my phone screen glared up at me as I clutched it between my hopeful hands. Any reason for me to not have to go to work this morning was a good one. Please, I begged quietly. Please, just give me this one trip and I'll never ask for anything ever again. I clenched my eyes shut, wishing on everything good in the world that just this once something would work in my favor. My eyes snapped open as I looked down at my phone, my face twisting with confusion. What the actual?
Hey, folks, we have just selected our last winner. Thank you all so much for participating in Train Travel Tuesday.
The radio hollered. My hand shook as I read over the text again before my phone fell from my grasp. The words on the screen stared back at me from the floor, hauntingly eerie.
Congratulations, Winnie. We were hoping that you would reach out. Go and open your door. The ticket will be in a sealed envelope under that potted plant by your door.
Dread washed over me as I glanced over at my front door. How did they... So many questions swirled around in my head as I stood on shaky legs. Cautiously, I approached the door. Goosebumps raced over my arm as I choked down a breath and reached for the knob. Slowly, I twisted it and... The shrill scream of my alarm clock rang throughout my room. I awoke with a gasp, sweat beating at my brow and sharp breaths escaping my mouth. Carting a hand through my hair, I tried to steady my breathing before reaching for my phone. That was such a strange dream. It all felt so real. Pressing my fingertip to the screen, I unlocked my phone and then instantly froze. A small number 1 notification lit up beside my text messages. Surely not. My finger hesitantly hovering over it before I finally relented.
Congratulations! You are the lucky winner of the last Train Travel Tuesday ticket. Please contact the radio station to receive your ticket.
Confusion bubbled within me, but relief quickly took over. That dream from last night must have just been an overactive imagination. Sometimes when I eat too much sugar at night, it does that. Retracing my steps, I recalled that before I'd crashed onto the couch and made a stop at the local Walgreens to pick up a couple groceries, my boss had given us all a cupcake before we ended our shift for that night. Most bosses threw pizza parties to keep up the company morale. I'd scarf it down before I even made it to the car last night, because I'd been so busy I'd even get to take a lunch break. I set my phone down, deciding to find the contact information and call about the ticket during my lunch break today. I had a busy morning ahead of me, so I knew I wouldn't have the time to take care of it right then. The day went faster than I could have imagined, and once again, I skipped lunch. With a glance at the clock, I sighed and headed to the break room. It was getting late, and my stomach had been growling since noon. As I whipped open the refrigerator, an agitated groan left my lips as I noticed that my lunch had been stolen again. Who in their right mind would even want what I packed? Payday wasn't until tomorrow, so I was living on scraps at that point. The only thing left in there was a can of Vienna sausages, a badly bruised apple, and the butts of the bread I had left over. My eyes reluctantly traveled over to the carton of cupcakes sitting on the counter from yesterday. There was only one left. I decided to just take my chances, cracking open the carton and finishing it in about 3 bites. I usually wasn't much of a cake person, but I'll admit, these cupcakes were extraordinarily good. Wiping a bit of buttercream from the corner of my lip, I tossed the cupcake liner into the trash and headed back to work. When I finally clocked out, I trudged out to my car and sped home. I had every intention of calling and checking on that ticket, but the second I stepped through my front door, a wave of exhaustion washed over me so strongly that all I could think about was sleep. I tossed my purse onto the little table next to the door, dropped my keys right next to it, and kicked off my shoes. I barely remember making it to the couch before I passed out. When my eyes finally opened, once again, it wasn't because of my alarm clock.
Excuse me, do you have your ticket?
I wiped my eyes, staring up at the man in front of me, bewilderment radiating off of me.
Ma'am, have you got your ticket?
Where am I? I asked, cutting him off mid-sentence. A bit of agitation presented itself as he impatiently tapped his foot on the floor before blowing out a sigh. It was almost as if I'd asked him a stupid question or something, but I was genuinely confused.
Please, hand me the ticket.
But I don't... I stuttered before he interrupted me and pointed toward my pocket. Quirking a brow, I looked down to see a silver slip of paper sticking out of my coat pocket. Quick to retrieve it, I yanked it free and handed it to the man. Honey-colored eyes scrutinized the ticket before he punched a hole in the upper right corner and handed it back to me. Curiosity crept up on me as I turned the ticket over in my hands, examining it closely. With a yelp, I dropped it and recoiled as it suddenly caught fire. The ashes floated along the floor, erasing any evidence of it ever existing. The logical side of me wanted to believe that it was a dream, but you can't feel pain in dreams. My pointer finger and thumb were burnt during the whole fiasco. Whatever this was, it was real. My concerned gaze shifted from my fingers to my surroundings as I quietly took in my environment. To my surprise, I was seated on a train that I don't remember boarding. My eyes scanned the other seats, and my confusion only seemed to mount when I realized that I was the only other passenger besides an older woman a few seats ahead of me. I could see the top of her head from where I was sitting, little silver ringlets. I stood from my seat, deciding to investigate. I slowly padded down the aisle and made my way over to her seat before deciding to introduce myself. I hoped that she could give me some information about where this train was headed. Maybe she was one of the other ticket members. "Hi, I'm Winnie," I said, holding out a hand. When her head finally turned to meet my gaze, I winced when I heard a strange crunch, but I pushed aside and tried to offer a kind smile. Her wrinkled hand slowly left her lap as she extended it in my direction, grasping my hand in hers before shaking it. Before I could pull away, though, I watched in complete and utter horror as she brought my hand to her mouth and licked my fingertips. Repulsed by her strange actions, I tried to yank my hand away, but she had an inhuman amount of strength. With a sinister smirk, she dropped my hand before saying, "You taste like cupcakes, darling." Staggering backwards, I almost tripped over my own feet as I desperately tried to wipe her saliva from my hands, except it wouldn't come off. A thick black substance squirmed around my fingertips and stuck to them like fattened leeches. Fear twisted and turned within me as I fought to keep my cool. Ripping the creatures from my fingers, I threw them on the ground and trampled them before I realized that woman was cackling like a fucking psychopath. "They think you taste good too," she croaked, her maniacal laughter echoing all around me. I scrambled toward a set of doors, pushing through them in a matter of seconds. This next cabin was filled with passengers. The second I stepped in, their attention snapped towards me. Their eyes glazed over, and drool dripped down their chins in a steady stream. One of the men stood from his seat and stalked over to me. His long legs were cracking with each step. He was unusually tall. So tall, in fact, that he had to hunch over a bit so that his head wouldn't hit the top of the coach. Something was very wrong, and I refused to wait around and see what would happen. I fled, turning on my heel and racing back into the other cabin. A small sense of relief bloomed within me when I noticed that the old lady was nowhere in sight. Dashing down the aisle, I pushed past another set of doors and into yet another cabin. Harsh breaths escaped my lips, and my heart nearly beat it out of my chest as I searched for anywhere to hide. I came to a screeching halt and nearly cried when I saw the symbol for the bathroom. I shoved myself inside, quickly locking the door and sliding down onto the floor. I held my hand over my mouth, trying to muffle the sound of my breathing. With my other hand, I reached into my pocket and fished out my phone. I've been in the bathroom for the past hour and a half, and I don't know what to do or how to get off this train. Every time I try calling 911, the dispatcher on the other end of the line keeps saying strange things. It's like she's not even listening to what I'm saying. I don't know how long I'll be here, but I do know one thing. If someone offers you a cupcake for the love of all things holy, please don't eat it.